Remember when Margaret Thatcher ruled Britain with an iron fist and the entire nation was collectively obsessed with neon leg warmers? Today, we're diving into 17 things we desperately miss from 1980s Great Britain. From the revolutionary ZX Spectrum that started the bedroom coding revolution to the fizzy magic of SodaStream machines. Did you know that British kids in the 80s spent more time watching Ceefax loading screens than actually watching TV programs? Yet here's the shocking twist. Many of these outdated technologies were actually more advanced than what followed them. Buckle up for a nostalgic journey that'll make you question whether progress really means improvement. Let's kick off with the ZX Spectrum, the rubber-keyed wonder that single-handedly created Britain's gaming industry. Released in 1982 by Sir Clive Sinclair, this little black box with its rainbow stripes sold over 5 million units and turned spotty teenagers into millionaire software developers overnight. The Spectrum came in two flavours, 16K for £125 or the luxurious 48K model for £175, which in today's money is roughly the price of a decent smartphone. What made the Spectrum special wasn't its graphics, with their infamous attribute clash that made characters look like they were having seizures whenever they moved. No, it was the fact that anyone could program it. The manual actually taught you basic programming, and kids across Britain were typing in endless lines of code from magazines, praying they hadn't made a typo online. The controversial bit? The Spectrum's success was built on piracy. Those screeching loading sounds from cassette tapes? They were easily copied, and playgrounds became black markets for duplicated games. Entire cottage industries sprang up around cracking copy protection. Some argue this rampant piracy actually helped the British games industry by creating a massive user base hungry for new content. Atari. While the Spectrum ruled British bedrooms, the Atari 2600 was the alternative choice. Though actually priced similarly to the Spectrum by 1982, the Atari felt more exotic and American, an imported taste of arcade culture with Pac-Man and Space Invaders in glorious full colour without attribute clash. British kids who owned Ataris were either spoiled rotten or had relatives in America. The wood-grain finish console looked like it belonged in a 1970s disco, and those chunky cartridges felt substantial compared to flimsy cassette tapes. The joystick, with its distinctive orange button, became an icon of gaming simplicity. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because later in this video, we're going to reveal which beloved 80s children's show had parents writing angry letters to the BBC. Nothing said, "I'm cool." In 1980s, Britain quite liked lugging around a boombox the size of a small suitcase. These portable stereos, often called ghetto blasters, a term that would definitely raise eyebrows today, were the ultimate status symbol. British youth desperately tried to emulate American hip-hop culture, blasting Run DMC and Grandmaster Flash in Birmingham city centres. The bigger the boombox, the better. Models with dual cassette decks were prized for making mixtapes, while those with detachable speakers could transform any park bench into a disco. The controversial truth? Most British boombox owners were middle-class white kids from the suburbs trying to look street. The batteries alone cost a fortune. A good session could drain 8 D cells in a couple of hours. British markets in the 80s were magical places where you could buy everything from knockoff designer jeans to suspiciously cheap electronics. Camden Market in London became a mecca for alternative fashion, while Manchester's Arndale Market was ground zero for acid house culture. These weren't your quaint farmers' markets. 80s markets were where you went for bootleg cassettes, copied computer games, and fashion that fell off the back of a lorry. The traders were characters straight out of Only Fools and Horses. Del Boy wasn't fiction, he was documentary. The atmosphere was intoxicating. The smell of leather jackets mixed with incense, the sound of traders hawking their wares, and the constant paranoia that trading standards might raid at any moment. You could kit out an entire new romantic wardrobe for 20 quid if you knew where to look. Power dressing invaded British offices like an army of geometric warriors. Inspired by Dynasty and Dallas, British women armed themselves with shoulder pads so massive they had to turn sideways to navigate doorways. These architectural blazers transformed the female silhouette into something resembling an inverted triangle, or as one comedian quipped, a walking coat hanger. The irony was delicious. These power suits were meant to help women compete in Thatcher's Britain, to be taken seriously in male-dominated boardrooms. Yet the more exaggerated the shoulders became, the more cartoonish the look. Still, there was something magnificently defiant about British women strutting into the old boys' club, looking like they could tackle a rugby player. The trend peaked when even Princess Diana adopted the look, making triangular shoulders a royal seal of approval. Shell suits were supposedly designed for athletes, but in 1980s Britain, they became the uniform of people whose only exercise was walking to the corner shop. These shiny, swooshy tracksuits came in colour combinations that violated the Geneva Convention. Fluorescent pink with electric blue, purple with jade green, combinations that could trigger migraines at 50 paces. The fabric made a distinctive swish-swish sound with every movement, announcing your arrival like a synthetic herald. Liverpool embraced them wholesale, while Manchester preferred the slightly more upmarket Sergio Tacchini version. The tragic truth? Shell suits were dangerously flammable. One spark from a cigarette could turn you into a human torch. Yet Britain persisted, creating a nation of walking fire hazards who looked like escaped extras from a low-budget sci-fi film. Fashion historians still debate whether this was Britain's lowest sartorial moment. In 1980, a colourful cube invaded Britain and turned the nation into puzzle-solving obsessives. The Rubik's Cube sold 4.5 million units in its first year in Britain alone. Schools banned them, productivity plummeted, and speed cubing competitions sprouted up faster than you could say algorithmic solution. The dark side? The cube created a generation of cheaters. Kids would peel off stickers and rearrange them, or simply take the cube apart and reassemble it. Solved. Instruction books selling solutions made fortunes, and playground gurus charged 50 pence to solve your scrambled cube. Get busy with the Fizzy. The SodaStream machine promised to liberate British households from the tyranny of buying soft drinks. This Israeli invention became a British obsession, with the machines becoming incredibly popular by 1985. You'd be hard-pressed to find a street without at least a few households sporting one. The machine itself looked like something from a sci-fi movie, all chrome and plastic with that satisfying psst sound when you carbonated water. The reality was somewhat less glamorous than the adverts suggested. The syrups never quite tasted like real Coke or Pepsi, more like someone describing the taste from memory. The CO2 cylinders were expensive and always ran out at the worst possible moment. But there was something undeniably satisfying about making your own fizzy drinks, even if they tasted like carbonated cough medicine. Every British kid in the 80s either had a paper round or knew someone who did. Getting up at 5 a.m. to deliver the Daily Mirror in horizontal rain-built character, or so parents claimed. Paper rounds were often a kid's first taste of employment, complete with tyrannical newsagents and dogs that seemed specifically trained to attack anyone carrying newspapers. The pay was terrible, about £7 a week if you were lucky, but it was your money. The controversial bit? Health and safety was non-existent. Kids as young as 10 were cycling through dark streets with bags weighing more than they did, dodging milk floats and avoiding the local flasher. But paper rounds taught valuable life lessons. The importance of punctuality? Mrs. Henderson would complain if her telegraph was 5 minutes late. Basic geography, learning every shortcut in a 5-mile radius, and conflict resolution, negotiating Christmas tips from stingy customers. Still watching? Brilliant! Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if it's bringing back memories. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for our shocking revelation about how much money Blue Peter actually raised with all those charity appeals. Before Tesco Metro conquered every street corner, Britain had proper local shops. The greengrocer knew your name and your mum's preference for slightly underripe bananas. The butcher would save bones for your dog. The corner shop owner would let you buy individual cigarettes, highly illegal, universally practiced. These shops were community hubs. The greengrocer's was where gossip was traded along with potatoes. Seasonal produce actually meant something. Strawberries in summer were an event, not a year-round expectation. The controversial truth? These shops often operated on a flexible approach to regulations. Sell-by dates were suggestions, scales were approximately accurate, and nobody asked too many questions about where the butcher sourced those suspiciously cheap steaks. Saturday mornings in 80s. Britain was sacred. From 7 a.m. until noon, children ruled the television. Shows like The Raccoons, Thundercats, and He-Man turned living rooms into animation theatres. Parents could sleep in while kids absorbed important life lessons like knowing is half the battle and By the Power of Grayskull. The bizarre truth? Many of these shows were essentially 22-minute toy commercials. He-Man was created specifically to sell action figures, and it worked brilliantly. British parents spent fortunes on plastic warriors while complaining about American commercialism. The shows were often violent, sexist, and made no educational pretense whatsoever, and kids absolutely loved them. The late 70s and early 80s saw Britain's two-tone ska revival, with bands like The Specials, Madness, and The Selector creating a uniquely British sound. This wasn't your grandfather's Jamaican ska, this was ska with a punk attitude and political consciousness. The iconic black and white checkered pattern became a symbol of racial unity in Thatcher's increasingly divided Britain. The controversy? The movement's anti-racist message often attracted the wrong kind of attention. Concerts frequently ended in battles between National Front skinheads and anti-fascist rude boys. The music was infectious, but the gigs could be genuinely dangerous. In 1983, 4 Vietnam veterans burst onto British screens and taught an entire generation that you could fire 10,000 bullets without hitting anyone. The A-Team was pure American excess filtered through British sensibilities. And we couldn't get enough. Mr. T's mohawk and gold chains introduced British kids to a level of bling that wouldn't hit our shores properly until the garage scene emerged. The show's violence was so cartoonish it made Tom and Jerry look like a documentary. Bad guys would flip their cars 17 times, crawl out and shake their fists. British kids spent Saturday afternoons trying to recreate the stunts, resulting in countless dented garden sheds and angry parents. The controversial bit? Teachers complained it was making children violent, completely missing that the A-Team's main message was essentially solve problems through elaborate mechanical engineering. The Dukes of Hazzard presented British audiences with an America we'd never imagined, one where orange cars flew over barns and everyone spoke in incomprehensible drawls. The General Lee, with its Confederate flag roof, sailed through British consciousness without anyone really understanding the problematic symbolism. To us, it was just a cool car that could apparently fly. British kids tried sliding across car bonnets like the Duke Boys, leaving scratches on every Ford Cortina in the nation. The show's casual lawlessness fascinated a country where even minor traffic violations resulted in stern letters. Boss hog became Cockney rhyming slang for various authority figures. The real controversy? The show convinced an entire generation that American sheriffs were incompetent buffoons, which made later crime dramas quite confusing. Parents despaired as children attempted to enter cars through windows. From Duran Duran's yacht rock to the Smiths' miserable indie, 80s Britain produced bands that defined a generation. The new romantic movement gave us Spandau Ballet and Culture Club, bands where the makeup budget exceeded the recording costs. These weren't just musicians, they were fashion statements with synthesizers. The economics were fascinating. Record companies would spend fortunes on music videos, knowing that one play on Top of the Pops could make a career. The controversial truth? Many of these bands couldn't actually play their instruments. Synthesizers and drum machines covered a multitude of musical sins, and miming on TV was standard practice. The 1980s gave birth to the Yuppie, young urban professional, or as most people called them, young upwardly mobile parasites. These Filofax-wielding, brick phone-carrying creatures invaded London's square mile, turning banking from a gentleman's profession into a blood sport. British Yuppies desperately tried to emulate their Wall Street counterparts, but with less success and worse teeth. They drove Porsche 911s they couldn't afford, snorted cocaine in wine bars, and crashed the economy in spectacular fashion. The Big Bang deregulation of 1986 turned the City of London into a casino, and everyone wanted to play. Before the World Wide Web, Britain had Ceefax and Teletext, information services that turned your TV into the world's slowest computer. Want to check football scores? Just tune to page 302 and wait, as the pages cycled through at the speed of continental drift. Despite the glacial pace, Teletext was revolutionary. You could check weather, news, TV listings, and even book holidays through your television. The graphics were pure 1980s, blocky text in 7 colours that could trigger migraines. Bambaboozler, a quiz on Channel 4's Teletext, became a cult phenomenon, proving that British people would compete over anything. The controversial aspect? The BBC's Ceefax and ITV's Teletext were in constant competition, often borrowing each other's content and design ideas. These services also hosted some surprisingly adult content after midnight. Dating pages that were essentially prehistoric Tinder. The 80s gave us convenience at the cost of character. Your smartphone replaces every gadget mentioned but lacks their soul. We gained efficiency but lost community. No corner shop gossip or paper round life lessons. Yet that optimistic 80s belief that technology would solve everything left its mark. Which treasure do you miss most? Comment below. And if this triggered nostalgia for when phones had cords and computers loaded from cassettes, subscribe and hit the bell. Next week, 15 forgotten foods from 90s, Britain that should stay forgotten. Until then, keep living like it's 1989.